Resources, crafting, hunting, gathering, building, it's all here. I'm Falcon, and today on gameranx, the top 10 new and upcoming survival games of 2018. Number 10 is Astroneer, a planet colonizing sandbox game that has a lot in common with both Minecraft as well as other more environmentally based survival games. For instance, you'll have an oxygen reserve tank, and you'll need to recharge it in order to stay alive, but suffocation isn't the only threat. There's also storm debris, hostile plants, and who knows what else lurks beyond. It's also a very pretty game, using textureless environments and a great color palette. Though we've seen similar looking games at this point, it does manage to distinguish itself. It's both single player as well as co-op 4-player. The early access game is fun. The full version is coming out this year, and obviously it's a game that shows us a lot of promise. When the final comes out, we'll probably be talking about it. Number 9 is We Happy Few, a game that has really given us some interesting stuff, but still revolves primarily around blending in with happy people who are on a drug called joy. Joy powers the society. It makes everything look not bad, whereas if you run out of joy, it's very clear that this is some type of dystopia, as everything is dark, grimy, eroded. If you're found not to be on the drug, you're basically attacked. It's a game that pulls a lot of inspiration from both BioShock and the novel 1984, but with a focus more on prescription drug culture, which in a lot of cases can be bad, but it also can be good. Obviously, it's not going to be exploring a whole lot of the good side of it, I would guess, as we've already seen a lot of the game, and it would also be kind of weird to make that a focus, being the conflict is with the bad side of the drugs. But we'll see. It started out really kind of messy, but it's a cool game. I do look forward to the final release of this one. Number 8 is Little Devil Inside, a somewhat different pace of survival RPG. It really has the sort of look of a warm, more artistic and lovely, serendipitous piece of work. But don't be fooled, it's very obviously a survival game. There is a little bit of a city of people you'll be able to retreat to from time to time, but for the most part, you're going to be braving the elements out in a desert. It is actually probably one of the ones I'm most interested in currently, just because it's such an inversion of everything that I see in survival games. It reminds me of Journey a lot in its aesthetic, with a little bit of that JRPG style in it. I do have a hope that it does well because it's definitely something different. That's not to say a really well put together typical survival game is bad, just that it's really nice to see somebody trying to mix it up a bit. Number 7 is Conan Exiles, which it's already out on the computer, yes. It is an early access game still, but it is coming to the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. It's also a game that is consistently being expanded and turned into a larger experience, so that's basically stuff to look out for. However, if you've played this game, you know it is strange. I've seen and heard people call it a standard survival game, but I've also never actually seen anyone play it in that way. First off, there's base building, there's food, water, shelter mechanics, day, night, combat, stuff that you see in everything, but there's just something oddly unique about it, and I'm not necessarily saying that's good. Some of the uniqueness is definitely not, but some of it is. It is truly a sandbox, and it's not empty by any means. It's probably more fun as a multiplayer game, just because you get a couple of friends together and start messing around, and it's a game that's definitely used early access to get better with feedback. Number 6 is Scum, a game that will hit early access in the second quarter of this year, about prisoners just basically battling to the death. It's framed as season 2 of a television show called Scum, and described as an open-world prison riot survival game. Now, I don't know if you've watched much of the materials on this game, but they go into a lot of detail about how the human body will operate with different attributes, as well as different loadouts and inventories. In theory, you could use the system that they describe to essentially create a team of tanks, supports, etc., and essentially run a hero-style team, which is very interesting, and not really something I've seen discussed a lot, but that was the first thing I thought of when I saw all of it. Is that something that will be necessary? I don't know, but it does look like a very interesting game, and it's one I'm definitely wanting to at least try. Number 5 is Fade to Silence, a game in which you have been captured and forced to survive while your despair sustains a Lovecraftian entity. In every way, that is a very good setup. Now, this is a very early game, and it has a few hiccups. First, it is not optimized at all, so get the idea out of your head that it's going to run right now. But it's also really early on things like combat. There's some weird ideas at play that don't necessarily telegraph what exactly is going on in an intuitive way, but I would suspect as development continues, this will get a lot better. It's really the atmosphere that is the definite yes for this game, and it's absolutely wild. If you love Lovecraft, you like a snow-covered survival game set in a Lovecraftian world, this is it. Just a matter of time before it gets good, I think. Number 4 is The Forest, a game where you have to survive on a peninsula covered in, you guessed it, a forest. This forest contains mutant cannibals who have stolen your child, and you can either just survive or attempt to end that situation. It certainly is an interesting game that makes you question a few of the dynamics because the cannibal mutants are actually not purely evil, so it may end up causing you to question what's going on. It may not. One way or another, it succeeds in what it's trying to do, and it's a pretty fun game. It'll be out of early access in April. Number 3 is Rust, a game that has been in development for a very long time that sort of combines DayZ with sort of a Minecraft style game. It has developed beyond that. It is much more advanced than Minecraft, at least in some ways, but in others it's just a different animal altogether. Over time, it's really evolved into its own interesting idea, and as a game developed from the same minds that brought you Gary's mod, it is a fun, interesting, unique take on an otherwise overpopulated genre. It came out of early access in February, and it's fun. Number 2 is Subnautica, which is a weird game to say the very least. It's unique in that there is no other survival game that literally puts you underwater, and I've seen more than one person describe it as underwater Minecraft. Now, one could say that that's played out, but the game presents a unique set of challenges that are certainly very different than anything else you've played. It's also very, very pretty, if not sometimes a little bit random, not necessarily in a bad way, but it will throw you for a loop from time to time. It's one of those games that just makes you think for no really good reason, and I like that. And finally, number 1 is State of Decay 2, which promises to bring more community elements to the State of Decay formula, already a pretty good formula, and in all honesty, the community elements are somewhat just formalizing the ideas that players have implemented playing together. State of Decay is obviously one of the heavy-hitting names in the survival genre, and I think that some degree of the genre's ability to thrive depends on how good this game is, so, well, let's hope it generates some interesting experiences. A few bonus games for you. Metal Gear Survive is one. I can't recommend this game wholeheartedly. It is for a very specific type of person, and I don't have the definition of that type of person readily available. I'm still looking for it. It's there though. Far Lone Sails is an exploration game that promises to bring you to new areas via a post-apocalyptic dried ocean that you'll be exploring from a side-scrolling perspective in some massive vehicles. And finally, Desolate, a game that plays kind of like Dead Island if you threw in some Fallout, Dishonored, and a heavy dose of Stalker. It's post-apocalyptic, paranormal, and research-oriented, so it's definitely a lot of different things and looks pretty interesting to me. Frostpunk, which is a city builder / kind of Fallout shelter-y game, where the survival element is actually for your burgeoning society. It's set in the frost, of course, in a harsh, snow-filled environment where it will be very easy to die as a society, and I think it's a really cool idea. And then finally is Wild, a procedurally generated open-world survival game taking place somewhere between 10,000 and 2,500 BC. You can possess animals, you can start tribe fights, and in a lot of ways it looks like a very different game And as we get closer to it, I think we're gonna definitely get into it. What survival games are you playing? Are you waiting for anything specific this year? Leave us a comment, and if you enjoyed this video, please click like. If you haven't subscribed, now would be a great time to do so. We upload brand new videos every day of the week. The best way to see them first is, of course, a subscription. As always, we thank you very much for watching this video. I'm Falcon. You can follow me on Twitter @FalconTheHero, and we'll see you next time right here on gameranx.